I wanted a challenge a little bit, So I did the right thing and went online and bought this 1925 Studebaker firetruck, which I believe was actually a hearse originally. It hasn't left this barn in 2 decades, and of course it doesn't run. I know absolutely nothing about Studebakers or the Big Six, but I'm going to go ahead and try to get it running anyway, and yep, drive it home 50 miles. Great. Nope. Dumbest idea yet. Well, if you've went on ahead and watched more than 8.76 episodes, you probably figured out that a guy likes the history just as much as the rig itself, sometimes even more. And this one is rich in it, and I'm talking Oprah. So before we dig right into this thing, let's talk a little bit about the history of this old truck and what it is. The guy I picked this rig up from had it for 37 years. And 17 of those sat right over there in the corner in this barn. Before that, the old timer that had the bank, downtown, he had it for a long time. Long time. Used it in parades and whatnot. And then we do have photographic evidence that it was a fire truck for a stint. But I personally believe this was actually a hearse in the beginning. You see, in all the years that the guy owned this rig, he actually wrote Studebaker, and they were kind enough to calligraphy him back. And they said in 1925, they only made a bus chassis, which this is. And that bus chassis was either made into an ambulance or a hearse. And I'm seeing a lot more evidence that this was actually a hearse in 1925 and was later converted into a fire truck. Pretty neat. I don't know. Let's hook the peepers into it and see what you think. And you can start bleep blooping it down there. But it's pretty dang neat either way. This is one of the coolest trucks and probably most complete from 1925 that is in its original condition other than the paint in the box that I have probably ever seen. I'll take that back. I mean, it's up there, is what I'm saying. So this rig here should have come with the Big Six, which is a 6 in the row ready to tow flathead variety. They made about 80 horsepower. It's pretty much the only engine that went into the bus chassis. But they also went into a lot of cars. And in the 20s, especially like early 20s, they were really, really popular with the rum runners or whiskey whistlers or booze haulers or whatever you want to call them. People that, they hauled booze illegally, is what I'm saying. Because they were so fast. You got to remember, there were still horse-drawn buggies scooting through town. And then Jim Bob comes flying by in a Studebaker at 80 miles an hour, which is just, it's insane. Today that'd be like 150, 160. In fact, a lot of the sheriffs didn't even chase Studebakers because they knew they couldn't catch them until they finally caught on in like Arizona, for example. Then 13 of the 14 counties issued Studebakers just so they can at least keep up with the bad guys. But anyway, they were really popular, speed-wise, durability, you name it. They eventually even came up with a model called the Sheriff because, what I just was telling you, basically. Here's a photograph with an unknown date, but you can see there it doesn't have a box on it, but on the hood it does say, I think, GFD, so something fire department. And of course I forgot the letter from Studebaker, but I'll put a bunch more photographs that came with the truck and the letter probably up on the Insta ounce and the face space when I get back home. But that tells us right away the box is not original. So when it was a hearse, I would assume there was a different box, of course. Fire truck, it probably had a water tank on it. And then this was most likely made by the banker feller that had it and kind of painted it to match. But we'll walk around this thing and you're going to start seeing some clues right away that this was probably a hearse in its original form. But look how neat this thing is. The tin is in absolutely beautiful condition. There's no rust, other than surface rust, of course. But none of this is rotted out. It's been stored all of its life, thankfully. Even down here, there's just a little tiny bit where the running board hit it. But the doors are absolutely perfect. The hood, even the corners, all of the hinges are in excellent shape. The box is, you know, she's more rotten than that tomato movie, but we can fix that. There's just a couple speed holes in it. Whoops, that sounded solid. What was that, a rock? I don't know. We'll just ignore it. On the back of the cab here, you can see it's got nice rounded tin. The roof matches it, and then of course the wood in the windows, so we know that it came with the truck cab. So that tells me right away it was not an ambulance. So the only other option is a hearse. Well, then you start seeing these handles, and there's another clue over here on the other side. These here, and I'm not sure. I really don't know. So you guys are gonna have to tell me. But I would assume that a lantern or flowers or something was hung from that. Others say, because of the bottom clamp, this might have been an old fire extinguisher and part of the fire truck setup. So that is still unknown, and my research hasn't brought back many details there. Other than these handles and the whole bus chassis thing, you can see the original paint was black. Black here, black under the red, black doors, black under red there. So this truck was absolutely, without a doubt, black when it rolled off the line. Interior is all black. Again, that is kind of telling us hearse, right? By the way, all the door framing is wood. Cab framing is wood. The roof is wood. Look at these old flathead screws. Such a neat truck. And look at this. Click. Still shuts. Big old lights. All of the tires are pretty well shot. These are gum dipped Firestone 34 by 7s. I don't know the age on these, but I'm willing to bet they're older than me. This one here for sure is gonna hold up if we get it running down the road. Nope, probably half a mile before that explodes and leaves me stranded. This one's got a lot of tread on her, but it's known to go flat in about 10 minutes, so we're gonna ignore that. This one apparently holds air. And I think it's the same, yep, it's the same Firestone. So all the wheels are the same and the tires are the same. I'm gonna go ahead and guess the wiring doesn't work on the old brake lights. Now you can see more of that wooden frame made there. Now when we talk about fire truck, obviously the red paint, then we've got holes torched into the body here. We're assuming for like a pump or hoses, things of that nature. And since there's really no trunk to check out here, I think we'll just go ahead and dive on the cab, see what we find in this thing. By the way, these doors, I just can't get over that. It's pretty wild. This thing's loaded up. Pretty much got everything you could ever want in a pickup. First thing you're gonna notice is the steering wheel that's about to fall off. This is gonna be an issue if I do get it running, but we'll just ignore that for now. Blinkers, sure. Hazards, I believe. Oh, I see. It's off now. Don't know what this one does. This should be choke, which barely operates. This is actually how you adjust your timing. So you could throw some advance or retard in your timing right here, which is really cool. One of these is most likely going to be throttle. Feels like that one maybe. And then one's going to be a switch for like probably headlights if it's anything like Ford or GM. What about the winder? Oh yeah, positive windage. Look at that. Actually, I'll just leave it down. Put her in cruise mode right out of the gate. We got some gauge laters. We got, looks like 7,110 miles, which is absolutely believable, because why would they put more miles on as a hearse or a fire truck than that? Oil pieces, pressure, sure. Amperesses, I don't know what that means. Something with altitude maybe. And then a clock. And I think those over there might be buttons or knobs for the clock, and then maybe a couple auxiliary kind of things. No idea yet. Looking forward to finding out. Of course, you got the wiper. Wipe? No wipe. The blade is a little shot. We're gonna have to look for one of them. Got the dome lip in it. Look at the wiring there. Pretty cool. All the wood work in here is just pretty darn neat. Don't know what was underneath these. There's probably storage or something. We'll find out a little later. Does have a heater in this thing. I'll be dipped. Flip this up. We got a parking brake. It's just a drum assembly. This lever doesn't do anything, so that's fine. Battery goes in over there. It's going to be 6 volt. Whole bunch of custom wiring. This is a factory option. You just start sparking these together for different options. Don't know what you're going to get until you figure it out. Clutch doesn't do anything, so that's probably froze the flywheel. That's great. Brakes, sure. That's probably just a spring, but it's doing nothing. One's a throttle. I think that is actually the starter. Maybe that's the starter. We're going to find out. Not sure. Some sort of miscellaneous pedal over there. You could pop them out a little bit, get some air con going. Seat's in pretty good shape. Probably the original seat. I wish you guys could feel this. It's not like typical vinyl or leather. It's got a very, well, 1925 feel, I guess. Let's throw it out there. Again, you can see the original black paint and the red paint here, but the black underneath of it. It's pretty cool. Does this window work? Oh yeah, loud and clear. That'll come right down. We won't worry about up. Oh, fuel tankage. That must be the sender that's not plugged in. That's fine. Just ignore that. There's some sort of passenger pedal that was crudely cut into the floor, so we know that's not original. We'll explore that a little bit more. Oh, that comes up too. So maybe we can really get under here. Oh yeah. So there's the battery box. We got some cables hanging. Some sort of adjust-a-rooney knob. Some baling twine. This thing's right up my alley. Got 4 wires. Those are probably for the tail lights that don't work. This thing is a pretty sweet rig. Whoop! Don't touch that. I think that brick was the offset, you know, holding her down. Well, let's jump under the power barn and see these horses. It's got to be 3 or 4, maybe. Indeed. Uno, dos, 6, 5, trace, 7, -1. We got a 6-cylinder flathead. It looks complete, but what? Never mind. It's more cobbled together than a shoemaker. Maybe it'll fire. Extremely unlikely. I'm gonna give this one 13.78%. Not very high, but I'll show you why right now. She's got all the sparkulators in it. I immediately noticed how absolutely ginormous these are, and undoubtedly the originals, Champion. At least they're there. So these aren't full of house and stuff like that. Never gonna find one of these coils. That's fine. speaking of never finding, these parts are available, but finding them is an absolute chore. I mean, you gotta dig and search and research, and a lot of diagramicals on the interwebs. What is this? It's a carburetor, I know that, but it's been modified, and this is fuel in, but then it's just fuel out, but then it's unhooked. And this guy goes to that fertilizer tank, so that's good. I think there used to be a, see these bowl holes? There used to be like a vacuum fuel canister thing where it ran manifold pressure or vacuum off of here into that tank, and then fuel came in and then fuel came out. So it's kind of like a fuel pump of sorts, but I don't know. Help me understand this setup. I also see a garden spigot. That's good. That runs to what I believe is the WP. Yep, so that goes into the water pump. So that must be fire truckage there. This is completely shot. That's probably not gonna work. Lightning whirler is there though. All the wires. Top rad hose is gonna last 2 seconds. That's fine. This cable here is how you adjust the timing. See here, goes up to this adjustment. That goes to the firewall right there. Remember that lever? And that's what moves that right there. Helps with starting, probably not. Also drag racing, you know, if you want to race this thing. All right, good enough on this side. Let's go look at the other side. By the way, and who, this hood opens exceptionally good for being almost 100 years old. Oh, that looks like house wiring. That's fine. Oh, that one's just snipped right off. Don't need that. We'll pretend we didn't see it. This is the starter, I believe, which is chain driven. Good luck finding one of them. Hopefully it works. Belt's in really good shape. That's gonna last. Nope, won't make it 2 miles. Everything seems to be here though. A bunch of switches on the floor. Sure. That one is clearly the starter one because it's got the bacon wires hooking to something. This must be oil, pumpage, filtrationage. Sure. Look at the cylinders. That's really cool. You can see all of them. Well, if 13 trees and 2 bicycles somehow align and a mechanical miracle happens and this thing actually runs, my biggest worry is just keeping her cool. My grandpa used to say back in the 20s and 30s, all the trucks and cars and even tractors, they ran hot, they overheated, they couldn't keep them cool. And whatever he said, you can take to the bank and cash it twice. I guarantee that. This is what's called a thermal siphon cooling system. Didn't work. It's low boiling point, not very good. And up top here is actually really rare and often stolen. It's called a moto meter. There were a few different companies that made them aftermarket. So if you wanted to customize your rig, you'd just screw one of these on. This one here appears to be a Boyce moto meter. And basically what it is a thermometer for your engine. It's your temp gauge. They didn't work. By the time this here went red, it was way too late. And you boiled out all of the slough water that you already poured in that morning. The guy is just trying to get to town, sell some barley and pick up some wine, but now you're walking 6 miles. Great. German shepherds and rotten eggs. Well, I just checked. Can't get a wrench on the crank snout or anything up there. First step is just seeing if this thing turns over. Probably locked. Yep. So I'm going to do the right thing and just throw a battery in, connect that up, and just jam on the starter button and see if this thing rolls over. Feller here said he did throw some fogging oil down her when he parked her 17, 18 years ago. Maybe that did something. Probably not, but we're about to find out. I am completely unprepared, per usual. On the way here, I swung into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and my mind was completely bottled. They had a 6-volt battery in stock, brand new one, but they had this one here that said reconditioned in 2019, and it's now on closeout for $39. So I had to get this one instead of the new one, and get this. They actually had the sparkulators for this in stock right on the shelf. So I grabbed them up too. Let's throw this thing in and see what happens. Let's see. Hip. Oh, I feel like I could have been president of the wiring division for Studebaker. Every single wire in this entire truck is the same color. It's also known as anti-theft. You can just watch them burn your rig down instead of steal it. That seems better. Yeah. Yeah. Clamps are not good. We'll just ignore it. Maybe over tighten this one, and then Tanya Harding on that one. Definitely. Battery clamp installation. You just beat it on. I don't think that's a Super Start commercial, but sounded pretty cool. So this one's professionally clamped on, and that one's a press fit, you know. Neutralis. And then we'll just try it. Hey! No way. It's turning over. I was not expecting that. Oh, look at that. Blew a sparkulator out even. I brought a gallon of WD-40 because I thought for sure this was going to be locked up. Well, to be honest, I packed 2 roast beef sandwiches because I thought I was going to be in here fighting this engine back and forth, getting it broke free. Now that that's turning, we can move right on to spark, I think. We need compression, lightning, and fuel. I can hear compression. In fact, it blew one of the sparkulators out when I was just slowly rolling it over, which is fantastic. So I think we're going to move on to lightning. Before I take off the lightning whirler and all the stuff in there, because I think it's got a sure hit contact in there and a bunch of just old, hard to find, complicated stuff. We're going to go right to the end of the lightning hose and just see if we got any sparkalization there. So I'm going to pull out all of the sparkulator so it turns over easier. We'll just jump start the starter. And I got a lightning tester, and we'll just see if we've got any right at the plug. And that'll hopefully save us a bunch of time. If not, then we'll go back up to the lightning whirler and start breaking stuff that, you know, I can't find parts for. Sounds like a plan. These are actually all loose, which gives me confidence. And this feller's saying he fogged them all. Look how absolutely, I've got big hands, and these things are just massive. They're also really bad looking, so it's not going to do us any harm changing it, but removing all these will let this spin over a lot faster while we check for lightning down here. I am going to hang on to these actually. I don't think I have any sparkulators this old. Maybe, probably not. I'm going to thread in a new champion. And then I'm going to plug this here little feller in. Plug this side in. If the light bulb blinks, that means we've got some sort of lightning. It's going to be pretty dull on a 6-volt system, but it's what we've got. You know what I mean? Sure. That's making a ground, right? Yep. Plug that in. Okay. Bring this over here. Yep. Plug this into this, maybe. Just got to bend it a little bit. Ouch. Bend. Why won't you bend? You got to bend a little bit. Come on. I see what's going on here. What about this guy? Well, that one works fine. So, or did it? Here we go. No sparklizations. Oh, do we got a key? Doubtful, very. Let's look at, maybe there's an ignition switch though. So there's no key, but I was rooting around in here, and look at this. The dash lights came on. These kind of just pull out. How cool is that? But no key. What does this do? That turns. Oh, look. On, off. On. All right, let's try that now. That is really cool. So I got that tumbler, you know, clicky switchy rolled forward there in the cab, and I'm going to check for voltages here at the coil. I'm going to ground it right to the threads in the head, come to the coil. I'm at 6.1. So we're definitely getting lightning over here to the lightning cam. So the next thing is going to be either this really rotten splintered wire going to the rotor cap, but most likely I'll just pop this off and we'll take a look at the contacts in here, and I think it's going to be an old sure hit. No, she's been upgraded on. Well, let's see what that tells us. So we've got voltages over to the lightning can, but we know we're not getting to these big old sparkulators over here. So we've got an issue with the lightning whirler, and this is really common with point systems, and one of the big reasons I went to HEI. Points and contacts work absolutely fabulous. They just don't hang in there long if you let them sit around. Sometimes if this is on right on the cam, you could just rock this rotor back and forth, and you can open and close the contacts, and you're wanting to hear or see spark in between there. And I'm not getting that. But I do get randomly a spark or a jump from my root driver here to the base or other miscellaneous stuff in here. So that tells me I'm getting lightning up to here. I'm just not getting spark through the actual point or contact. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of 1500 grit sandpaper. I'm going to open those up and just file on them a little bit, is what I'm saying. And that should make these brand new and rejuvenate them. Then we'll try it again and see if we can get some spark in there. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll try it. Boom. I don't know if you guys could see that. We got plenty of fireworks. So now we should be able to put the lightning cap back on and test her up here. And then we're getting really close. We could just dump some fire maker in this, see what happens. Boost mode, engage. Okay, so got the cap back on. Let's see if we got any lightning in there now. Oh, a little bit. You guys seeing that? I believe we officially have spark. I'll be dipped. Well, I think we can move on to the fuel make it happener system. And although I completely approve of this gas can hanging from the 60s, I wonder if a feller shouldn't just untie it here and shake her out just a skosh. Try to clean her up, you know. Wire's so brittle it's just breaking off. That's convenient. So this can actually says Gray Mills 707 metal parts cleaner for pistons, fuel making happeners, transgression parts, heads, you name it. Someone wants to look up the year on this. That would be really neat. From Chicago, Illinois. It says non-flammable. How does that work? I don't know. We're going to dump some of this lawnmower gas in. Wow, for Pete's sake. And then shake. It's not happy. It's not happy about it. Get on the weeds over here. It actually didn't look that bad. Huh. Well, maybe we'll do it again. Get up on the old bench here and then lean. Mixing up my cologne a little bit. Normally smell like hydraulic fluid, but I'll take gas. Sure. Probably should find some old nuts and bolts and throw in here. Maybe some sharp rocks. But I don't even know if it's that bad. No. We can run this. It's brand new. Yep. You know, a guy hasn't even looked closely at the fuel make it happener or this line. So I'm going to do the right thing and just dump 17 gallons in here. And then that should kind of just show us if we got any leaks and whatnot. I'm sure the needle's stuck more than a Ford Ranger in a field, but we'll figure that out here in a minute. That should be enough to make a fire, at least on the floor. Fuel line snags around, comes into here, into this fitting that's loose. So I'm gonna take these screws out into this broken lid and see what we got going on under here. I just want fuel to kind of shoot in, and then we'll kind of go from there. Oh, I like how that sticks wide open. Convenient. Currently smells like old fly traps and burnt batteries, so really enjoying things around these parts. One screw out. Here's the second one. I don't know if this just pops off or how's a guy, what do you do? How do you get, oh, you just lift. Oh, now fuel's coming like crazy. How do you shut it down? Shut it down. We're overfilling. This is bad news. Can you adjust it? Oh, I think I shut it down just in time. I mean, I don't know. We're learning as we go here. There's gas in the thing now. Fixed it. Guy rigged up his fuel modulator 4000. Got that shut down. Got the float out. If you shake them, I don't hear any liquid in it. So this doesn't have any holes in it. That's good. This is a ball and ball fuel make it happener, and I've got all sorts of junk in here. So I think what I'm going to do is crack this loose, try to clean this out best I can. But basically, this acts as a needle, and that was stuck. And when I cracked the lid with my screwdriver, boop, that's when she came rushing in. So the good news is we got fuel, and there's a big orifice or passage over here. This must be how you adjustalize it. And then, you know, she atomizes and does things in there. Oh boy, whole choke system is really on there. We might have to get this off so we can hand choke it and do some other things, but I wonder if maybe we crank it like this just to see what happens with the fuel in there. I think at this point, a guy's gonna go ahead and just start throwing the sparkulators in so we can start cranking on this thing and see if it, you know, makes some noise or maybe smoke, something. Wonder what these are torqued to. Never mind. All of it. Well, the guy does have all the sparkulators in. We got lightning, we know that, and there's some sort of bad gas from the 80s running to the fuel make it happen that's broken. So I think the next logical step is let's just give her some internalization and I don't know, see what happens. Instead of jumping it with the jumper cables that were hanging on the wall, I'm gonna actually use the button because we seem to get some better throw on it. So let's see what happens. All right, here we go. going to go with a little bit of choke. By the Who and Way, you probably hear that when it's turning over, it's got a very consistent sound, and then it's got a high-pitched sound. It's like da 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 da. What that is a dead cylinder, unfortunately, or one that's significantly less than the others. So we know that one of these 6 is hurt. It seemed like it galloped there for a second. I didn't hear any bang, but I do smell a little bit of combustion. So I think it was very, very close. One of the challenges with 6-volt systems is just getting them spinning fast enough or figuring out the fuel combination to make them fire off. So I think I'm going to pull the heat exchange hositalizationer thingy from the exhaust downer upper to the fuel make it happener off, so I can kind of see in there. We can hand choke it and do a couple other things. I just changed my mind because I'm lazy. So I think what I'm going to do is just keep playing with the choke for a while, because that's essentially a hand choke. What I was going to do is just soak a rag down in gas and stick that in there because it's an updraft. And somehow, scientifically, or wizards or witchcraft, not sure which, it sucks the fuel out, not the rag. But we'll try it again here for a little bit, see what happens. Okay, we're going to go half choke and a little throttle. Nothing. Gonna let the starter cool. Go full choke. I think the needle is stuck again. I just gave her a Bruce Lee, and it seems to be spilling fuel over the floor. So I'm going to try it again. Fired. Did you hear that? She fired twice. I just got to figure out the right vise clampage on the old fuel line, chokeage, pedalage, and buttonage. It's kind of just, if I could figure out that right combination, I think we might have it made. I'm seeing some indications it might be flooded. I got some fuel leaking up on the intake tube. So I'm just going to hold her open for a little bit, try that for a while, and then we'll come back to adding more fuel. I'm going to pull one of these sparkulators out and just see what it tells us, if it's flooded or not, and then that'll give me an idea of what to do with all the levers and buttons and cables and what have you. Yes! It ran! Well, she fired up. I threw a 12-volt battery down, jammed the cables onto them. That seemed to spin it fast enough to actually fire off. I got to do that a lot with the old tractors too. Now the thing is going to be, how can I cobble together a fuel make it happener? Because I think I'm missing some pieces. I'm going to unclap that fuel line, try to fire it up again, because I think we just sucked all the fuel out of the bowl. See if I can get it to idle a little bit. Maybe I can loosely unclamp it just to let just enough in. basically use a vice grips as the needle and seat. Perfect. It sure keeps trying. I'd like to get it to run a little bit longer than it did there initially, but it's just sputtering and quitting. I think it's just not quite getting enough fuel, but I don't know that we're going to be able to do much with this needle situation. I'm just kind of modulating it right now with the pliers, so I don't know. The main issue I'm having looking closer at this is there's these little counterweights in here, and the pedestal mounts where this pin goes through is broken off, and this side the whole pedestal is broken off, and there's this little fine piece of wire threaded through here holding these counterweights, and I think that's too tight and it's not letting this needle move up and down like it's supposed to. What's supposed to happen is that float comes up, hits these counterweights, and that lowers the needle and shuts the fuel supply off, and that's not happening. So we're not getting the correct fuel supply. It's either all or nothing. There's no in between. I don't know if we're going to be able to get past this today, and I'm certainly not going to be able to find parts today. Popped this guy off quick. It was pretty easy, just a couple bolts. Just wanted to see what was going on with it, and it is absolutely just full of nasty crud. I think I can get all that cleaned up, but again, the issue is I don't have a needle. So that's going to be really difficult to control fueling. It's actually getting worse every time I pick it up. There's that little wire. So I may have to come back with some carb parts here because I just don't think it's going to want to run otherwise. Well, unfortunately, as the guy sits and takes this apart to clean and inspect it, I've got all sorts of parts and pieces falling out of it. I've got a huge chunk of solder that came off the butterfly. This fuel make it happener is just shot. It's been patched and patched. Most likely the reason it was parked, to be honest. So that's going to shut me down completely, unfortunately, for today, but I stand behind what I said. I will run and drive this truck. It's just not going to be today. If you know where to find a ball and ball SV34A carburetor, bloop it down there in the comments for me, please. This is what it looks like here. It's a side updraft. It's not their original, just straight through updraft carburetor. Once I get one of those in my hands, we'll get that bolted up. And when I have it at the shop, we'll have a chance to better go through everything else anyway, and maybe even pick up some tires. Probably not. We'll let them blow. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate it very much. This truck and I will see you in the future. You little devil. I was going to take you for ice cream, but not now.